Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. Today on the program, the Marcos administration wants to change its strategy in countering the growing Chinese aggression in the West Philippine Sea. But the president sees no need to expel China's ambassador, despite increased harassment in the disputed waters. And amid all the tension, the country seeks to start new energy exploration projects in the area. Retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio joins us in the program. President Bongbong Marcos says the Philippines needs to change its tactics in countering Chinese aggression in the West Philippine Sea. He says the current traditional strategy of filing diplomatic protests and summoning the ambassador are making very little progress, and that the diplomatic efforts with China are heading in a poor direction. He adds the new plan should not lead to further conflict, rather it should take the two nations on the road to peace. Let's go straight to the source of the story, retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Sir, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us here on The Source.
Good morning. Good morning, Ria. Good morning to our viewers.
Sir, President Bongbong Marcos sees the need to change the current strategy in countering Chinese aggression in the West Philippine Sea, describing diplomatic efforts as heading in a poor direction. Do you agree with this assessment?
Well, yes, in the context that our neighbors, Malaysia and Indonesia, were able to get the gas in their exclusive economic zone, despite the threats of violent action by China. So they were successful in getting the gas in their exclusive economic zone, which is really the bottom line. We don't need China to recognize our EEZ. As long as we get the natural resources in our EEZ, then we are winning. And that is the case of Malaysia and Indonesia. So I think it's time for us to move in that direction, because Malaysia and Indonesia have shown the formula to succeed in getting the gas in their EEZ.
No, President Bongbong Marcos added that a more assertive China imposes a challenge to neighboring countries. What are your thoughts on this statement made by the president?
Well, he's actually describing the situation on the ground in the waters, because China has not given up its gray zone tactics. It has continued to bully its neighbors, including the Philippines, of course, shown in recent incidents in Ayungin Shoal and in Scarborough Shoal. So, well, that is the conduct of China. But the bottom line is, can we get the gas in Reed Bank? And in the case of Malaysia, they were able to do it, and Indonesia was able to do it. So we should be able to do it also.
All right. The Department of Foreign Affairs says that around 130 diplomatic protests have been filed under the Marcos administration. Yet despite these diplomatic actions, it just seems that China's gotten more aggressive in the area. Why do you think that is so?
Well, China, of course, will not just give up by the mere fact that we keep on filing diplomatic protests. But these diplomatic protests have a value, because unless we file these diplomatic protests, we will be considered as consenting or acquiescing to what China is doing. And so we are preserving our legal right by filing this diplomatic protest. But of course, it will not be sufficient to get the gas, to get the natural resources. So we have to do what Malaysia and Indonesia have done. Just go there and get the gas.
Okay, so what then do you feel needs to be in this new strategy that the president mentioned, in order not just to manage tensions in the West Philippine Sea now, but as you said, to have access to our resources?
Well, we should be sending our survey ship and drill ship already to Reed Bank, accompanied by our Navy. At the same time, we should be conducting joint patrols with the U.S. This has been the formula followed by Malaysia and Indonesia, and they were successful. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's just do that. we adopt the same strategy, and hopefully we will receive or get the same outcome.
Justice, why haven't we done that yet?
Well, during the time of President Duterte, of course, he didn't want to displease China. He said, "I love President Xi Jinping." So, he didn't mind because the gas was still sufficient until the end of his term. But now the gas is dwindling down. The pressure from Malampayag, the flow of gas is very weak. Instead of supplying three of our largest gas-fired plants in Luzon, Malampay supplies only two of our largest gas-fired plants. We have to import LNG, which is very costly. And maybe this year or this coming year, the gas will be sufficient to, at the end of the year, 2024, we will probably have only one gas-fired plant being supplied by Malampaya, and after that, maybe no more. So we really have to develop Rig Bank as the replacement for Malampaya.
All right. And in light of all of this, what other nations should we partner with in order to help the Philippines make this happen?
Well, we should conduct joint patrols with the U.S. and with other like-minded states like the U.K., France, Japan, and Australia. They have offered to conduct joint patrols with us. And also our ASEAN neighbors. We should ask them to conduct joint patrols with us in our own EEZ as well as in their EEZ.
Right. On the part of Beijing, sir, they've been accusing the Philippines of courting these supposed external forces to put more pressure on China. What are your thoughts on them putting it that way?
Well, all these countries have a right to sail in the South China Sea because in the South China Sea you have exclusive economic zones where there is freedom of navigation. You have high seas. The high seas belong to the global commons. It belongs to all states. So they have a right to be there. So China is saying that on the assumption that it owns the South China Sea, but it does not own the South China Sea. When it says that we should not get support from states outside of the region, China is saying that it owns the South China Sea. No, it doesn't own the South China Sea. The South China Sea belongs to the high seas. About 25% of the South China Sea belongs to all states, all coastal states, even landlocked states. And we have our own exclusive economic zone. So does Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia, and Brunei. So China is saying that on assuming that it owns the South China Sea, it doesn't own the South China Sea.
Right. Let's take a look at some of the things that China's been saying. In what could be a reference to the United States and other Philippine allies, the Chinese Foreign Ministry tells the Philippines that they will not back down in spite of all these alliances, and that the Philippines' own interests will take the toll or take the brunt of it. How should we interpret this? Is this a threat?
Well, that is the modus operandi of China, intimidation. When Malaysia tried to drill and survey in their own EEZ, China did the same thing, threatened Malaysia with war, with violence. And the same thing happened to Indonesia. When Indonesia sent its survey and drill ship to the Natunas, China did the same thing. China said there will be war. We will take action. But when it actually happened, it cannot do anything because the U.S. Aircraft carrier and the U.S. warships were there.
So if we were to do the same here in our own EEZ, you think China would react the same way as it did with Malaysia and Indonesia?
Well, I think so because China cannot afford to start any war in the South China Sea. It's not to its interest. It's not to the interest of any country, and it's no match to the U.S. also. China has about 450 nuclear weapons. U.S. has over 5,000. So it's no match to the U.S. firepower in terms of weapons. So it will intimidate smaller countries, weaker countries. But when we have an alliance with the U.S., and if the U.S. will support us, then it will have to back off, as it did in the case of Malaysia and Indonesia.
Right. Now, something else China has also said, sir, is they repeatedly use this argument of a supposed promise to tow the BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal. And the government has already called this, the Philippine government has already called this a figment of China's imagination. Why do you think China is so persistent in bringing up this argument?
Well, that is the nature of China. It keeps on repeating what its own propaganda. But of course, there's no basis. In the first place, Ayungin Shoal is a low tide elevation. It's part of our EEZ. That's the ruling of the tribunal. It's not capable of appropriation by any state as a territory. It's not territory. It's not. There is no territorial sea there. It's part of our exclusive economic zone. It's part of the outside the territorial sea, and there's freedom of navigation and overflight in that area. And the Philippines is the only state that can put up structures there, like artificial islands or or lighthouses or marine research stations, because under UNCLOS, it's the coastal state which has jurisdiction over the EEZ that can put up these structures exclusively.
That's right. Sir, we need to take a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo, and our source today is retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Sir, welcome back to the program. Good to have you here. Now, I want to talk about Chinese Ambassador Wang Zhilian. A lot has been said about him lately, but for President Marcos, he sees no reason to expel the Chinese ambassador despite the back-to-back incidents in the West Philippine Sea. He said that the envoy was just doing his job in pushing for Beijing's narrative. Do you agree or support the statement?
Yes, we should not be expelling ambassadors at the initial stage. We should calibrate this. You should start expelling lower echelon embassy officials of China. I mean, it's a serious matter to expel an ambassador of another country. We should calibrate this. There are many steps that we can do before we reach that stage, and it's too early in the game to bring the big guns here.
So what are those more calibrated steps we could take then?
Well, we could recall our own ambassador in Beijing, or we can expel lower echelon officials of the Chinese embassy here. We should be calibrating this depending on the seriousness of the situation. I agree with the president that it's too early to do that thing. It's too extreme at this stage. There are many things that will still happen.
Right. And now, on your part, sir, you previously pushed for filing a new case against China. Please tell us a little bit more about that. What kind of case exactly should be pursued, and what would be the steps involved here?
Well, first of all, we can file a case against China for destruction of the marine environment when the maritime militia of China destroyed the coral reefs in Iroquois Reef and in Sabina Shoal, or it's called the Shoal. And we can also file a case against China for preventing our fishermen from fishing in the common fishing ground of Scarborough Shoal. We should go to the tribunal to establish the common ground rules for fishing in Scarborough Shoal, because the tribunal has declared the Scarborough Shoal as a common fishing ground of Filipino, Chinese, and Vietnamese fishermen. And if it's a common fishing ground, there must be common ground rules, like how many tons a year should each country get, and what should be the fishing season. We should have several months to allow the fish to recover for the spawning season of the fish in that area. So this should be agreed upon by the countries that have right to fish there in common, but China doesn't want to talk about it, so we should go to the tribunal and ask the tribunal to. We will propose to the tribunal together with Vietnam what should be the ground rules, and the tribunal will ask China to comment, and if it doesn't comment, then the tribunal can set the ground rules.
So how
That
soon
should be the case.
how soon should cases like this be filed, whether it's for the prevention of preventing the fishermen or whether it's the destruction of marine environment? What is the time frame for this?
Well, in the case of Scarborough Shoal, we can file that already. That's it's long overdue. In the case of destruction of the coral reefs in Sabina Shoal and in Iroquois Reef, we should still gather evidence. We should ask marine scientists to conduct an assessment of what really happened, because we need the scientific studies before we go to the tribunal.
All right. Realistically po, Justice, can we expect Beijing, though, to comply with the decision of the tribunal? You know, would they cooperate at all? Because they have repeatedly called the 2016 arbitral ruling illegal, null and void. They just don't recognize it.
Well, we expect China not to appear. They will refuse to participate, but then we will pile on our rulings. And these are rulings that the world can rally around, like the arbitral award that we secured. China refuses to recognize it, but the world recognizes it. The EU, the Canada, the US, South Australia, Japan, and South Korea, and even India recognize the ruling, and the rest of the world. So this is also a matter of getting the world on our side, and that's part of the requirement under the UN Charter, that you must settle your disputes with other states peacefully in accordance with international law, and that's what we're doing. So even if China does not recognize it, if the world recognizes it, then China will be under pressure, because China has to needs the world to survive. It needs to export to survive. It needs to import to survive. And in this kind of struggle, in this kind of contest with China, we need the support of other states. And this is how we can get the support, by getting a ruling, and then there is something that they can cite as their basis for supporting us. And this is actually what's happening with the arbitral award. Slowly, countries after countries have been supporting the award because it's there. It's an international law that has been international ruling handed down by a recognized international tribunal under UNCLOS.
All right, we'll continue this conversation, sir, but again, we need to take a short break. This is A Source on CNN Philippines. Stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. Our source today, retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Sir, welcome back to the program. We've been talking about Ayungin Shoal here. The AFP Western Command recently monitored the presence of Chinese vessels in Ayungin Shoal, mostly Chinese militia ships, but still a fairly alarming number nonetheless. And some experts fear China could be in invasion mode. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's very disturbing, but fortunately, they all left as I last heard the news, that all those maritime militia vessels that entered the shoal of Ayungin Shoal, the lagoon of Ayungin Shoal, they have left already. But we should be concerned because they could go back and could stay longer and maybe stay there permanently, just like what they did in Scarborough Shoal. So we should be preparing for that eventuality because, of course, we all know that the objective of China is to seize Ayungin Shoal, just like what they did to Scarborough Shoal and even to Sandy Cay, which is above water sandbar in the territorial sea of Pag-asa Island. So we should be preparing for that, China will may eventually do to Ayungin Shoal what they did to Scarborough Shoal.
All right, so you believe China's grand plan for Ayungin is actually to take over that area. What does taking over that area mean? Will they be building structures there or just maintaining a more permanent presence of ships?
Well, Ayungin Shoal is only about 25 nautical miles from Mischief Reef. And Mischief Reef is the largest air and naval base of China in the Spratlys, in the South China Sea. So I think they don't want other countries to be in an area near their largest air and naval base in the Spratlys. So for their own security, they want to take over Ayungin Shoal. That's very obvious. Well, it's part of our EEZ. So, and we are the only state that can put up a structure there. Besides, we need that to monitor Reed Bank, because that's Ayungin Shoal really is a gateway to Reed Bank. If we want to protect Reed Bank, we have to have a monitoring station where we can build a structure, and that is Ayungin Shoal. So we need Ayungin Shoal to protect Reed Bank and to prevent China from getting nearer to us, no? Because Ayungin Shoal is between Mischief Reef and Palawan. So we don't want to lose another low tide feature to China. That's why we're holding on to Ayungin Shoal.
Right. It is very, very important, of strategic importance. Of course, we've been talking about the importance of oil and gas here. For President Marcos, he's lamented the little progress or slow progress on the joint oil and gas talks in the South China Sea with China, basically calling it a deadlock. How now should the Philippine government proceed?
Well, we should follow the example of Malaysia and Indonesia. They just went there. They just sent their drill ship and survey ship, and protected by their navy, and with the assistance, show of force of the U.S. and Australia, and that's the formula. We should just do it. It's time to act now, because we're running out of gas. Malampaya will run out of gas in 2 to 3 years, and we have to find a replacement. Otherwise, we will have to import LNG, which will be very expensive. I calculate that our power rates will go up by 50% at least if we have to import LNG, because LNG is more expensive than natural gas, of course. So we really have to we are pressed now, because it takes about 4 years to develop Reed Bank, and in the meantime, before we complete our development of Reed Bank, which will take at least 4 years, we'll have to be importing LNG, and that would devastate our economy.
Given that also, Justice, should we be exploring other partners aside from China to do the exploration, or should we just do the exploration completely on our own?
Well, right now we already have issued a service contract of a Reed Bank to Forum Energy. Forum Energy is a foreign company, but used to be a foreign-owned also, but now it's Filipino-owned because it was taken over by the group of Pangilinan. So there is already a concession that has been awarded over Reed Bank. So it's just a matter of implementing it, and the concessionaire, Pangilinan and his associates, have indicated that they're ready to go to Reed Bank to survey and drill, but they need protection from the Philippine government, because they know that if they are not protected, then the Chinese Coast Guard will just shove them away, which is what happened the first time they went there.
Right. Do you think now they would be getting that support and protection from the Philippine government?
Well, that's the reason why we're having joint patrols with the U.S. We have to. We have no choice but to to do what Malaysia and Indonesia did, because it's a matter of national interest that we get the gas in Reed Bank.
Right. So how urgent, I mean, how much more can we emphasize how urgent the Philippines needs to pursue oil and gas projects in the South China Sea?
Well, as I said, Malampaya supplies 40% of the energy requirement of Luzon, and it's running out of gas in maybe 2 to 3 years' time. We have to develop Reed Bank because that is the replacement. Reed Bank is about at least 2 to 3 times larger than Malampaya. Malampaya served us for a little over 20 years. So Reed Bank should be good for at least 60 years. And that will be a great relief for us because otherwise we'll be importing expensive, very expensive LNG. And we cannot afford it because our power rates are already one of the highest in Asia. That's why foreign companies don't put up manufacturing plants in the Philippines because our power rates are so expensive. So we really have to get the gas in Reed Bank. And if we have to import LNG, you know what that means. The power rates will go up, and that means inflation will go up, food prices will go up, and everything will go up. It will be devastating to our economy if we have to import LNG.
Yes, very urgent indeed. Sir, thank you so much for being here on The Source this morning. We always appreciate your expertise. That was retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. You're watching CNN Philippines.